Hello to everyone who has just joined. If you don't know me yet, I think you do know me, but if you don't know me yet, my name is Eva. I'm a community manager at Juno, and the big fan of my life is organizing the events for you, for our community, to be able to learn something new, but also just to spend some time with each other as well, and doing positive things. So today, in a special back to school vibe, let me introduce Andy. Andy is actually one of our Juno members. He used to be a project manager, correct me if I'm wrong, but Andy is also a life coach. And I think, well, Andy, over to you. You are going to say it much, much better.
No worries, no worries. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for spending your Tuesday afternoon, lunchtime, breakfast, whatever it is, wherever you are in the world, with me. And yeah, today we're going to talk about escaping your comfort zone and sparking positive change. But yeah, first of all, a little bit more just about me, and I'm not going to spend long on this. But yeah, my name is Andy. I now have a company called Dagda Coaching, but I was previously a project manager for 14 years before I moved into the world of coaching. And I've worked across several industries such as, banking, professional services, and technology. I'm still currently a freelance innovation workshop facilitator, and I do some well-being workshops also. And I'm also a design thinking expert. But enough about me for today, right? I'm really excited to be talking to you today about your comfort zone, why it is not a good thing to get too comfortable in your comfort zone, pardon the pun. And we'll go through some tips and a practical exercise of what you can do to escape your comfort zone and to help you grow overall. But I'd like to get to know a little bit more about you too. So you should see instructions coming up on the screen at the moment for joining a poll. It's a really quick poll on Mentimeter. So you can either scan the QR code that you see on the screen with your phone, or else you can go to menti.com and type in the code 87881097. I'll give you guys a minute just to do that. All right, I'm starting to get a couple of thumbs up. Thank you. All right, so just before I move to the first question, I want you to imagine, right, that it is the 3rd of September 2025. So exactly a year from today, right? You're getting your morning coffee, or maybe you're having your lunch at this time, and you're scrolling through social media and something catches your eye. You seem to be appearing a lot on social media. But what we have found, right, what you found is that you're the main headline on the front of today's news outlets. The headline is proudly announcing that you have been nominated for the Juno Freelancer Award called the Comfort Zone Conqueror. The article is delving into how deserving you are of this award, and it's celebrating your incredible journey over the past year, highlighting those monumental challenges that you've overcome and inspiring achievements you've accomplished. People are starting to look up to you now as an icon of resilience, bravery, and innovation for what you've achieved over the past year. So tell me more about this nominee. Who are they talking about? Share with me your name and your occupation, first of all. And for those of you that have just joined, the instructions are across the top of the screen. If you go to menti.com and put in the code 87881097, you'll be able to join us on the poll. Hi, Reese. Thank you for joining. Hi, Belle. Thank you for joining. Hi, Shafkat. Excuse me if I've pronounced that in any way badly, but thank you so much for joining. Claire Johnson, superstar copywriter. I love it already. Lilato, freelance community manager. Thank you for joining. Mika, creative director. Thank you for joining. Petra, freelance copywriter. Lauren, kitchen web developer, geek. I want to know a little bit more about what a kitchen web developer is, but I like it. Hi, Chi, you're wearing many hats. Totally get it. I have a wardrobe of hats at this stage. I'm wearing so many since moving out of the whole project management world. Maria, content director. George, graphic designer. Fantastic. Any last ones before I move to the next question? 3, 2, 1. All right. Now, this is just a bit of a fun question, right? Juno has reached out. So imagine Eva reached out to you, right? Asking what song you'd like as your walk-in music for the award ceremony. What song would you choose? Thunder. I like it. Very dramatic effect. I was waiting for Eye the Tiger to come up. MacArthur Park, the orchestral interlude. I'd have to find that one myself. I'm not familiar with that one. Return of the Mac, that's a good one. Depeche Mode, People Are Good, another good one. Smooth Operator, I like it. Any others? I used to go for the usual Eye of the Tiger, but then someone in my previous role reached out to me talking about a Killers song called Andy, You're a Star, and they said that's what your walk-in music should be. So I've changed it to that quite recently. AC/DC Live Wire, very good. Thunderstruck, AC/DC. All right, we're going down an AC/DC route here, I feel. Devil is a Liar by Tommy Rich, trending on social media these days. I'm not familiar with that one, I have to say, so I'm going to have to look up this one too. All right. Thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that. It was just a bit of fun, and I hope, Eva, you'll put together a playlist for all of us on Spotify for our walking music. But our last question. This is about your comfort zone, right? And you've been nominated for this award as the Comfort Zone Conqueror. So there's something that you are uncomfortable about that you've conquered. So what is that uncomfortable challenge you've overcome? What is that uncomfortable challenge that you would like to overcome in a year's time? You know, there's lots of things that we could put here. Like there's a lot of things, obviously, in the freelance world, like, you know, finding new clients, getting better rates. Perhaps it's the boundaries between work and life. Perhaps some of you are burning out. Perhaps some of you want to learn new skills or, you know, pivot into new career areas or something like that. And, you know, it doesn't have to be about work. It can be about life too. You know, perhaps you want to reduce down to a 3-day week so you can spend more time traveling or with family and friends or something like that as well. It doesn't always have to be about career. Career is part of life, in my opinion. So I'm getting some responses here. Funding for my business. Not surprised to see this, anything to do with money coming in this. Being indispensable. That's a good one. Consistent work. Yeah, always a challenge as a freelancer, isn't it? And particularly over the last couple of months with the market, it has been quite tough out there. Writing better pitch documents. That's a very good one as well. Graduating from my master's whilst working full-time, I can imagine the amount of planning of time that needs to go with that one to get to reach that goal. So very good one here. fear, anxiety, and burnout. And we'll be talking a lot about fear, anxiety, and burnout shortly. Pivoting to another career specialization, I've been through it myself the last 2 years. It's hard, it's not easy, but it can be done. Lots of people have done it before me. Lots of people will do it after me. Graphic design finally being appreciated by business, so getting that recognition and not feeling that resentment for that job. Quite common nowadays, unfortunately. Somehow pushed past being pigeonholed. That is difficult to say. And then my work, knowledge and experience actually being respected and seen, thus leading creatively satisfying bookings that pay well. Again, back to that recognition and not feeling that resentment. Absolutely, and knowing your worth, but also other people understanding your worth. Such a big thing for people at the moment. Operating at a higher level, moving into a leadership position or something like that, not doing more kind of junior tasks, taking days off confidently. It's a challenge for myself. Totally get it. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for being open and honest in terms of sharing some of those challenges with me, because it gives me an idea of what you guys are experiencing out there at the moment. But let me take you through a little bit more about the comfort zone, how you can try and escape that. We'll go through some tips, and towards the end of this call, we'll go through a very practical exercise to help you build a plan to reach some of these goals that we've just gone through today. All right. So a comfort zone, right? I'm sure most of you are familiar with this concept of a comfort zone, but everyone's comfort zone is totally personal to them. If I asked you to draw a picture of your comfort zone or use words to describe your comfort zone, you would all use very different words to describe it. But the key thing here that we probably all have in common is that it feels safe, it feels secure, right? In that comfort zone, you're doing the things that you know well, and it requires very little effort. You can do things with your eyes closed, kind of a thing. But I ask you, is that the right place to be, right? While it's a great place to stay, it can prevent you from trying out new things, adapting your approach, taking some risks, taking on challenges, building resilience, expanding your horizons, trying out new experiences, all those things. But the reason why we stay in our comfort zone quite a bit is there is something wrapped around that comfort zone that stops us stepping in, right? And it is the fear zone, which is the opposite of your comfort zone. When you're in this fear zone, you get a little bit, jittery, shaky, scared, anxious. You sometimes feel unconfident and unstable. And it is because you are facing these challenges that are outside of your normal comfort zone, outside of your usual day-to-day experiences. And that is daunting. There is no doubt about that. When you're in this fear zone, it can show up in your life in many ways, right? If you're doing something that's out of your day-to-day, usual day-to-day experiences, you might start frequently complaining that, I have to do this thing and I hate doing this thing, and you make sure that everyone around you knows about it in the process because you hate it so much, right? You get very easily irritated also. When people start to come in and try and help you or give advice, you're kind of saying no because you feel a little bit exposed in front of some of those people. And we actually start building these walls of defense or protection around us so that we don't feel that exposed to people. But overall, when you're in the fear zone, the key thing here is that self-doubt creeps in. You are questioning, and the voices in your head are questioning your abilities. You're thinking that you cannot do this and you can't figure it out. And you just want to go back to that comfort zone and not experience that thing again. But the thing is, you've done this many, and I mean many times throughout your life to make you who you are today. This week, here in the UK at least, lots of people, lots of kids have started school for the first time, right? That is a new experience. They were leaving their comfort zone, right? Reflect back to a time when you were a child, right? And you had to start school for the first time. Or perhaps, when you had to learn how to ride a bike or something like that. Ask yourself, what are the challenges that you had then? What were the fears that you had? How did they show up? What did you feel in your body? What was your mind telling you? But most of all, how did you overcome those fears? Now, I'm not saying when you're in those situations and you're staying in that fear zone and you're trying to overcome those fears, that everything is perfect. There's no such thing as perfection, remember. You're going to come out with the bumps, the bruises, the tears, the stories after it all. But still, it has helped you grow to what you are today. And the same logic applies here today, okay? If you can push yourself past those fears, that is where the magic starts to happen. You start to learn. Here, you're going to have a challenge, but you're up for the challenge. You're going to learn as you go along. You're going to possibly develop new skills or expose yourself to new experiences that you would usually avoid. But along that journey, you know that you're going to build more confidence. Knowing that you're not going to get it right the first time, every time also. Yes, it is going to feel bumpy and uncomfortable. Yes, you are going to be lying awake at 3 a.m. every so often, wondering how you can overcome a step of a challenge. It is okay to feel this fear and uncertainty when you're learning something new. These feelings are actually a signal that you're on the path to growth, especially if you're able to push yourself to stay in the learning zone for a prolonged period. As you move into the growth zone, what seemed impossible to you before will now seem very doable. You have this buzz, this energy, this motivation, this drive, this feeling that, you know what, I actually can do this. You also become a lot more focused. You're thinking about those small, attainable steps towards achieving that big goal. You're still going to experience fears, but your ambition, your confidence, and that growth that you're getting will help quieten down some of those fears that you originally had. And it's because you have this sense of pride of what you're achieving. You've this compassion to yourself saying, look at what I'm doing. Look at the growth that I've achieved in myself. And you know what? People also will start to notice this too and call this out to you. Now, one thing about this graphic, right, is notice how the learning zones and the growth zones wrap around the fear and the comfort zones. As you continue to spend more time in the learning and the growth zones, your comfort zone should start to expand. If your comfort zone is not expanding, staying the same size is actually showing that you're stuck. It should be constantly expanding. The one last thing I would say about this is the size of opportunities that are ahead for you. Okay? You are in your comfort zone and you want to look at the opportunities that are ahead of you in that comfort zone or even the fear zone, right? And if you look through that telescope, looking at those opportunities, the size of the comfort zone, it's going to be quite narrow, isn't it? You're not going to have that expansive view. Whereas imagine picking up a telescope for a learning zone or a growth zone. That is going to be really expansive about the amount of opportunities that are there ahead for you. But the thing is, they are the opportunities that you need to jump towards. You're going to feel that discomfort because you're going to have those fears to go into that learning and growth zone. But only you can do this. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are probably thinking, Andy, I've done some of this before. Some of this has never worked for me, right? But let me give you a couple of tips, first of all, right, on escaping your comfort zone. All right. The first thing I will say is to start small and then build some momentum. Okay? Don't try to transform your life or your career or whatever it is that you want to achieve overnight. You know, when people want to lose weight, if I wanted to lose 5 kilos, I can't expect that to happen overnight. I know I need a plan and it'll take a couple of months. All right. The same goes for this. Identify small challenges that'll push your boundaries slightly. And as you accomplish something, move on to the next small challenge. Doing that step by step will actually help you build your confidence and momentum in a more sustainable way. The next one is to reframe your mindset. And when I say reframe your mindset, think about a growth mindset. Instead of thinking of these things as threats to you, see them as opportunities for learning. You would be willing to take more risks and persevere through any bumps along the way, if you think of it that way. What often holds us back is our perception that discomfort, failure, and what others might think. But you need to, yes, acknowledge it, but think about the learning opportunities and what you will achieve at the end of that. The next one, number 3, is one that a lot of people don't do. And it is probably one of the most important, right? Creating accountability. Once you know what you want to achieve and the steps that you need to achieve that, share those actions and the dates that you want to achieve them by with someone. It can be a family member, it can be a friend, it could be a colleague, or some people like to work independently, without someone that is involved in their work and life all the time. And that's where mentors and coaches work very well for this also. The fourth one is about practicing self-compassion, right? I've mentioned many times you're going to feel bumps along the way, okay? But be kind to yourself when you're facing those setbacks and give yourself the same encouragement and understanding that you would give a good friend if they were in the same situation as you. Remember, it's a journey. And I'm going to use the cliche, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint, all those things. But it's so true when it comes to this. And lastly, expose yourself to new experiences and perspectives, okay? It'll not only expand your comfort zone, but it'll help enhance your creativity, your empathy, your resilience, and your problem-solving skills. So make it a habit to try something new. And it could be that thing that's out of your comfort zone. If I was asked to go, painting landscapes this weekend, it won't be out of my comfort zone, but step into it and just enjoy the experience and figure out what you learn during those types of experiences. All right. So for the next part of the session, I'm going to give you guys a template, and we're going to, each of you are going to put together a personalized plan of what you can do to escape that comfort zone. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, I've done this, I've tried to achieve this goal that I want to achieve, but I just can't do it. We're going to actually reflect back and think about those fears that are stopping you from from escaping that comfort zone, and what we can do to try and alleviate some of those so that you, in a year's time, you can reach that goal. All right. So I'm going to share a link into the chat here. Okay. When you click on the link in the chat, you should see this. Okay. My advice is that there is a download button up here. Click on download and save it somewhere. Okay. Wherever suits you. Because after that, when you scroll down to page 3, you'll be able to fill in the workbook that is here. Okay. If you want to use a pen and paper, you're more than welcome to. I get it. Sometimes pen and paper works just fine. I just wanted to give you guys this link because it actually has the tips and the comfort zone graphic that I showed earlier. So it's something for you guys to walk away with after today's session. I did promise that for today's session. So spend a minute just downloading that, and you'll be able to fill in those boxes then on page 3. All right. So let's slowly but surely, step by step, go through each of the 5 questions that are on that template. Okay. As we go through this, take some time to write in your responses. You're not going to share your responses with anyone. This is completely personal to you. Okay. I'm happy to answer any questions about this at the end of the session also, or if there's something really urgent, yeah, come off mute, put up your hand, put it into the chat, whatever works for you. But I'm going to go through step by step the 5 questions. I'll think of some other questions as we go through each also to help you open up your mind and answer some of these questions also. Okay. So there will be some silence as we go through each of these as well to give you time to reflect and put in your responses. But don't worry about that. Okay. So the first question, what are some of the things you'd like to do, but you feel uncomfortable doing? So we've answered this a little bit when we were going through the award ceremony for You Know Do Know, all right? Is that still the main thing that you would like to achieve over the next year? Is that the thing that you're uncomfortable doing and you want to escape that comfort zone? If it is, write that into the template. Or perhaps it's, other things that you want to add to it. Again, reaching out to new clients, pivoting to a new career, moving to a new country, learning a new skill. There was some people there earlier talking about, recognition for your worth and what you give to clients, funding for your business. There was lots there. So just take a minute to write down those things that you are uncomfortable doing, but you'd like to get them done. All right, I'm going to move on to question 2 now. And it's not a question that we have answered earlier or anything like that. And again, this is personal to you. Let's describe what that fear zone looks like. Okay. What are those fears that are holding you back? What are those thoughts that come to mind when you're thinking about that fear zone and doing the thing that you're uncomfortable doing? What are the voices in your head telling you? What is your heart telling you? What is your gut telling you? We all have a voice somewhere in our bodies that is telling us something when we're in these situations. What are they saying? What do you think will happen if you did the thing that you're uncomfortable doing? Okay, I'm going to move on to question 3. If I'm moving too quickly, just let me know in the chat and I'll pause for a little bit longer. Just let me know, okay? So question 3 is about, what are you missing out on by listening to those fears? What are the consequences of listening to those fears and staying in your comfort zone? What opportunities are you saying no to? What opportunities are you avoiding altogether? Also think about, what impact is this having on you personally today? Do you feel like you're carrying a weight in your shoulders? What is that weight in your shoulders? How would you describe that? What impact is this having on other areas of your life? So, for example, if you're not taking days off at the moment, and consistently taking those days off, are personal relationships with friends, family, etc. impacted because you're working all the time? If you're saying no to learning a new skill, are you missing out on other job opportunities as a result? Okay, I'm going to move on to question 4. Again, if I'm moving too quickly, let me know. Okay. So, question 4, we want to look at what would happen if you decided not to listen to your fears. and do what makes you uncomfortable. What would that future look like? So imagine 12 months from now, all the obstacles are removed, including those fears. You've escaped that comfort zone. Paint that picture, be really descriptive. Feel free to even draw it because I know there'll be some people here that are much better at visually doing something like that. So feel free to draw what that would look like if that's helpful for you. What are the things that are in place? What do you see? What do you hear? How will you feel? What will you be saying to yourself? What will you have that you don't have now? Okay, the last question, question 5. We want to think about the actions that you are going to take to make that future come true, escape your comfort zone, and stop listening to those fears. All right. So, what are the actions you're going to take? Remember, we want these to be small, attainable steps. That was the first tip that I gave in the slide earlier. So, break them down into really small, specific steps of actions that you can take. When you're doing your actions, there's obviously the very practical things that you need to put in place, okay, to reach that goal. Like if you want to find more funding for a business, you need to go speak to people probably. But remember, you have your fears also. What are those actions you're going to take to overcome those fears when they show up for you? If you're struggling to come up with some actions or you still feel a bit stuck, think about what resources can help you. Is there someone who can help you? Is there someone that has done this in the past that you can have a conversation with? What about what has worked well in the past for you? Are there some learnings there that you could apply to the situation you're in today? Is there somewhere where you can find more information that will help you build out your plan? Once you have some actions written down, write down when you would complete each action by. So provide a date for each action for yourself. And once you've that done, take some time to review your actions, right? Read through them. Ask yourself, is there something I need to have in place before I take each step? It will help you build out your actions a little bit further.
For wanting a divorce.
All right, so that is the worksheet. Okay, so you have built out your plan to escape your comfort zone, okay, and to achieve that goal that is obviously very personal to you. Okay, so I'm curious, right? Share into the chat a number between 1 and 10 about how committed you are to taking the actions you have set out today. 1 means you're not committed at all. 10 means you are fully committed. You're going to do everything that you have set out on your plan. Please share that number with me. DJ 8. Thanks, DJ. Reese 10. Wow. Shafkat 9. Claire 6. Mika 8. Anyone else? 9.5. Very specific. Thanks, Adriana. Chi 8. Anyone else like to share? George, 8 or 9. We'll call it 8.5, seeing as we're putting the 0.5s in there after Adriana. Thank you for sharing. So my question to each of you, right, is the number that you have given about how committed you are. Ask yourself, what do I need to do to move it to the next number, the next highest number? So, you know, Mika, you're at an 8. What would move it to a 9? Is there an action you need to take there to make it a 9? Add that to your action list and put a date on it as well. All right. Thank you, everyone, for spending your lunchtime, breakfast time, whatever it is for you, with me today, and also for joining in on the polls and providing your numbers of your commitment and things like that. I hope you got something out of today's session, and I'm happy to talk further with any of you. There's time for Q&A now as well, or if you'd prefer to talk to me one-to-one, the QR code for my LinkedIn is on the screen. If you want to drop me a message, I'll put my link actually into the chat there as well. Alternatively, I am on the Slack for Juno as well, if you want to drop me a message there, or else my email and website is there as well. I will be here again on the 1st of October, where I'll be talking about freelance freedom and letting go of what you cannot control. So it might be a nice next step for escaping your comfort zone and figuring out what you can and cannot control. So I'm sure Eva will be in touch over the next couple of weeks with more details on that event. But for now, it's over to you guys. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. And again, thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Do we have any questions? Shall I take a screenshot of all those commitments, especially the ones above 8, and show it to you in 2 weeks' time and ask if you're still there?
That's a good one. Yeah, why not? Is anyone any feedback that they'd like to give also? I'm happy to take any feedback on what you found useful or what you think would be more useful in the future, if you don't have any questions.
Maybe sharing some examples from your experience, how others escape their comfort zones and how they overcome the obstacles would be good. Yep,
absolutely. Yep. I can share some examples like that for you. There's someone that I'm working with at the moment that is from a project manager background, but wants to pivot into a new career. Basically they want to move into a different career because they don't feel appreciated for what they're giving anymore in their career as such. And I know a couple of you have mentioned that when we were talking through, the polling earlier. And what I've been doing with this person is, number one, letting them know a little bit more about what their worth is. Because they felt like that they were in a race to the bottom when it came to their rates and things like that. But it was also helping them understand about their more transferable skills. Because they were a translation project manager, so they had translation background, but obviously project management expertise as well. But they wanted to really work a lot more in the technology space, particularly gaming, okay, which was very different to the legal documents that they were looking at all the time to support the gaming industry. So to help someone with that, it was number one, looking at their transferable skills, but also understanding a little bit more about what they value, okay, what is important to them in their life. And another thing, because they felt so much resentment from people with the race down to the bottom with their rates and things like that, it was about looking at their strengths and helping build that confidence even more. And from there, it was a case of really putting together that plan, very similar to what we've just gone through today, about what are the things that you're going to do when your fears show up? What are the things you're going to do to get your name out there in the gaming industry, etc. Like, now it was a lot more detailed than the one pager that we went through today because it was an actual coaching client. But I'm delighted to say that person got into the gaming industry and started a brand new career. No longer freelance, is actually in a full-time job doing translation project management in the gaming industry. Started that job 3 weeks ago now at this stage, and is delighted, obviously. So that's just an example there of the comfort zone for that person was, I'm lacking confidence, I cannot do this, and people don't value me and my skills anymore, so how can I overcome that to achieve my goal? So that's one example there, if that's helpful. But again, everyone's comfort zone is going to be very different and personal to them, so it's a tough question to answer that everyone can get something from, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, thank you, that makes sense.
No worries.
Thank you so much for joining then today. You know how to find Andy. Andy is very findable. He provided all the contacts, so you can always find him. We recorded the session. We're going to publish it. So if you want to revisit anything that happened today, it's going to be in the Freelancer Hub. And well, I think we're going to see Andy, as Andy said, on October the 1st. But also, if you'd like to learn something completely different, next week we're going to have our session on Monday.com and how to use Monday.com in team project management. So if project management tools are outside your comfort zone, please join this one. We still have seats on this. Thank you so much, and hopefully see you soon. Have a lovely afternoon.